Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Tower. So this is just a farming run. I've just finished recording some responses to some comments from earlier videos, which I'll get into shortly. But I would like to take the time to just settle some housekeeping matters with regards to the channel. So I guess it would be better for me to hop into YouTube for this. Give me a minute. Alright, so we are here on the channel analytics page of my YouTube channel. And firstly, a very warm welcome to all the new subscribers. I think we were at 106 last week. So it's very nice to see that there are more and more subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. But for those of you who have just subscribed, welcome on board. It's great to have you around. And specifically, I would like to thank Spartan. I had the pleasure of watching one of his streams earlier this week for a short while, and Spartan was so kind. He basically told everyone to drop what they were doing and come over here and subscribe. So thank you very much for that. The other person was also Dr. Trashback. So thank you very much as well. You in your recent tournament stream, you posted a link to my YouTube channel. So I don't know how much I can express my gratitude for this, but it's really supportive of you guys, and thank you so much for that. Now my goal eventually is obviously to get this to 500 subscribers. That's, I guess, a milestone because it allows for the monetization of the channel. But more importantly, I think my goal is to, as I've mentioned, practice speaking English, and in order for there to be some form of meaningful communication between us, I guess it's better that I create content which there is demand for. So looking at the content of the period, I guess it's not surprising that these two videos have the highest number of views. The first one is from transitioning from EHP to Glass Cannon. The second one is Devo and Deathwave farming. Now there are clearly a lot of better Devo guides out there by all the other content creators, and so I don't think there's much value in me adding on to whatever everyone is already saying there. But I don't think that there was much of a discussion about EHP to Glass Cannon, so I guess that's why this video has significantly more views than others. Now, unfortunately, there is not much more that I can say about a transition from EHP to Glass Cannon, but it is I still would like to create value for all of you watching. And what I've thought about is, well, in the previous two of the previous videos, I have talked about project funding and Galaxy Compressor testing in tournaments. And here is my thought process on what's happening. So if I jump over to the audience page, we can see that majority of the viewers, so I'm based in Melbourne, Australia, hence GMT 11. Majority of the viewers that are typically awake and watching the videos are around 6 a.m. And there is no way that I can wake up at 6 a.m. I'm not a morning person. My brain typically does not function before noon. So it's very difficult for me to, I guess, do a live stream. And I think on Sundays, that's when there are quite a few of the YouTubers, they are doing their live streams anyway. So I would not like to compete with the existing pool of viewers for who watches what stream. In fact, I find it much more enjoyable to hop onto someone else's stream and look at how they are doing and just interacting with the community that way. So what I was thinking of doing moving forward is, well, since Melbourne, Australia, where I'm from, the tournaments are typically held on Wednesdays and Saturdays, I would try to get tournament playtesting videos out in the afternoon on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So that way I can do the playtesting, and you might be able to and I can get the videos out early, hopefully before you have done your tournament, and so that way you would be able to, I guess, update your strategy based on what you have seen me do. And I'm not sure whether or not this would be something that I would switch to permanently, but at least in the short-term future, this is how I think would be best for me to create value for all of the viewers. Alright, so back to the actual video. So this video, for the rest of it, I will just be addressing some of the comments from some of the earlier videos, and right after this I would proceed to make a tournament testing video. Right, please enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, so first comment came from fFletchs, and he wants to see my coin multipliers table. So it was previously at 1904, it's now at 1964. This is my coin multiplier table. There's nothing special here. I think the three basic packs. The active cards, mine is slightly higher because of coin mastery. I've maxed that out. My current module level for coin is at 179, and this is the tier 14 difficulty tier multiplier, which is probably why it's so high. Themes and relics, I haven't found any new ones recently. I'm not sure if I'm maxed out on my themes and relics. And for enhancements, I'm currently at 1.51. Of course, every time I increase this thing over here, you might see this final number jump by like 10 or something, but that's just because of the multiplicative nature of all the other stuff. And it's getting really expensive to level this thing up. So hopefully I can move towards a black hole digester farming that is really contingent on me pulling another 2 black hole digesters. But even then, I still need to get quite a lot of investment in other stuff in order to make that build possibly work for me. Okay, so the next question comes from William, and William says that it would be great if I could make a glass cannon farming guide, and at the moment he's respecking from EHP to glass cannon for tournaments, but right now the income losses are too high to farm with glass cannon. Okay, William, so I think the first thing you have to check on your end is whether or not the respec is worthwhile to you. If it does help you get a net higher level of stones and gems, then maybe it's worthwhile to do the respec. But if your overall position does not change by much, then maybe the gems are better spent on module pools. And I say this because let's say you will be able to compare it with your own module levels. You're currently at module level 140, mine is at 179. So this is, for instance, my cannon module damage multiplier. It's 13.3. I'm not sure what yours is, but my understanding is that this module level benefits are quite exponential in nature. So you might see that your overall damage level is significantly lower than mine, but that comes from just me having the higher module levels. With that being said, then of course if you are able to pull more modules, then you should be able to get more shards, and that should overall help your performance in the long run. So yes, it might be tempting to respec for the tournament for the short-term gain, but you have to be mindful that there's also going to be a longer-term cost in the form of lowering your overall module progressions. Now, okay, I digress from your question. Now, the thing with glass cannon farming is that it's really AFK, at least the way I do it. So I run with intro sprint mastery, which means that the first 1,800 levels of this run are basically just skipped, and I get 0 coins for it. Now during this 1800 levels, I basically try to get as many of the perks that I want as possible. If you have a look at my overall perk selection, auto pick ranking, it's at rank 11, so I do need to get a couple of levels into this. But what I do is I try to get say damage and this 1.65 tower damage, as well as all the general kind of like, you know, black hole duration, spotlight bonus, golden tower bonus, 1 to death wave, 4 more smart missiles, chain lightning damage, and this coin farming perk during this 1800 waves. After that, there's really nothing that's very different between glass cannon and EHP farming. In the EHP version, I guess you don't want this particular perk, right? And you don't want this perk just because it reduces your health regen, so you die really quickly when the enemies eventually start hitting you. Instead, you would replace this perk with the minus 50% damage trade-off perk. Other than that, there's really not much difference. I think at least when I was running glass cannon and when I was running EHP, I mostly changed off this perk. Stuff like this, range enemy attack distance reduce, I actually kept this perk in. It's a non-FX for me because I have permanent black hole, which means range enemies never attack me anyway, so it didn't really bother me. Enemy speed minus 40% and their damage increases by 2.5. I also just ran this perk. Of course, if I remove this perk, it would have given me longer runs, but I think the thing with EHP farming is you generally want to try to get to a point of like 12-hour farming runs. So anything beyond that, you can just throw in anything, right? As long as my run lasts for 12 hours or 11 hours and a half, thereabouts, it's good enough for me. So I didn't really bother about micromanaging the perks too much. In terms of the common perks, you want to try to ban off as many as possible. So I think stuff like interest you would ban off. The reason why I have this over here is just because I no longer run with the bonus health, bonus defense percent, and bonus health regen perks. Now instead, I put in stuff like bounce shot chance and bounce shot number and op quantity, just because these two take like, you know, three levels to max compared to 5, and EHP doesn't really do anything at the current stage of the game that I'm at. So hopefully that addresses your question, William. There's not much more that is different between the two farmings. I guess from something that might be more relevant to you is because you're respeccing from EHP to glass cannon. I presume you're running something Devo related, which means that you get rid of stuff like landmine chance, op quantity, your range, multi-shot chance, rapid fire chance, all this good stuff. You're getting rid of it for your farming runs, and you should. The trade-off that you have is that in the tournaments, especially at the start, you might have to level up some of your free upgrades and then level up stuff like your attack speed, your range, and so on. Back when I was doing something like that in my tournaments, I think it took the first 100 waves or so to basically max out this stuff. So yes, there is definitely a trade-off by not respeccing, in the form of, you know, that first 100 waves you could probably put in more levels into enemy level skips. But again, the main trade-off that you are facing is in terms of your long-term module progression. So I guess you will be the best judge of that, have a look and see if it's really worthwhile for you to continue the respecking. And the best way to do that is just by not respecking on one tournament and seeing how your actual tournament position gets affected by just spending the first few waves upgrading all of this added stuff. So hopefully that helps with your question, William. So the next question is from nycXninja, and so I'm very cautious about answering questions like this, Ninja, just because I have replied to your YouTube comment, but it's very difficult for me to give a blanket level of advice on, should you go from EHP to glass cannon. My recommendation is that you should, but that is because I'm very biased against EHP, and that primarily stems from me not enjoying the playstyle of EHP. The best thing that I can do is to not give you a fish but teach you how to fish, and I think that's what I've been trying to do with the videos. I would rather share the strategies or the thought process of me doing something rather than telling or prescribing a view that this is how everyone should play the game, because ultimately this is a game and we should play it in the way that we enjoy the most, and so there is no one size fits all. So hopefully that stuff that I replied on your comment addresses your question. The best way to figure out, is it worth switching from EHP to glass cannon, or is the wall worth the investment, would be to actually play test it by yourself, and eventually you would come to something that you like the most. What I would say though is that you don't have to feel that, like, if you've put in some investment into the wall and it doesn't work out, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? Because at the end of the day, our tower is basically a function of all the investment that we have put into it. And essentially what that means is that the person who has all upgrades maxed out, all labs maxed out, they are going to be the top player in the game, right? There is no way around it. The only thing that probably matters is that, well, since nobody is at that level, then we are sort of optimizing our tower in our own way with the constraints that we are bound by, which is our resources. So there is some sort of an element of strategy on how you want to best use your resources in order to maximize your tournament's performance there. And I think that is what most of the, say, like the Devo guides are about, or even any form of farming guides. We are basically constrained by our time, and so we want to maximize this number over here, and our daily coins as a result, in order to make as much progress as we can when we are farming. So hopefully that addresses your question in a more broad perspective, Ninja. Right, the next comment is from See the Truth, and he wants to understand how Death Wave works. So Death Wave, okay, so there's a couple of things to note about Death Wave. So as you can see here, my Death Wave deals damage 607.63 Q. It's on a particular cooldown. There's a couple of nuances with the Death Wave. So let me go down to the ultimate weapon section, and there we go. So Death Wave has a couple of labs that we can lab out. One is the Death Wave health, the Death Wave coin bonus, and I think there is a cell bonus as well, if I'm not wrong. Death Wave cell bonus. Okay, so let me put Death Wave here, and so we can see all of these things. The next two labs are the damage amplifier and the damage armor stripping. Okay, so with the Death Wave, there are two things to note. So as you can see, like on my screen, let me clear my screen out a little bit. On my screen, you can see all of these red circles that are pulsating through my tower. Now, each of these circles is what's called an effect wave. Okay, and what this effect wave does is that each time it pulses, any enemy on the screen at the moment is going to be tagged by each of these items over here. Okay, so they will take, when they die, they will give you a health multiplier. When they die, they will give you a coin bonus. They will also give you a cell bonus, and they will be tagged with this amplifier and armor stripping. So how this amplifier works is, so as you can see, mine is at level 7, which means that I deal 15.5 times more damage to the enemy. And so when the enemy eventually hits my death wall, it is going to give me 15.5 bonus times damage to the enemy. And what is that death wall? So that death wall is the ring that you see around your tower's range after all of these pulses go away. Okay, at the moment you can't really see it in my situation because the enemies are just too much health. By the time they actually touch the death wave, they take up all of the damage of the death wave. Now, so that is why when you are doing something like a death wave farming, you want to keep your range very low. So if you run a 30-meter range, your black hole basically covers your entire tower range. If you have permanent golden tower, that means that every enemy that dies is going to be benefiting from your golden tower multiplier as well as your black hole multiplier. Now, because every enemy that hits the death wall is going to be also tagged with all 5 of the death wave effect affixes, you are going to benefit from the added cell bonus, added coin bonus, and the health pool bonus of the death wave on the enemy. So the next question is about whether or not you should keep the death wave damage low. Well, as you can see in my current situation, because enemies have so much health, my ultimate weapon development on death wave is something like 250 times or 240 times damage. But it's not enough to kill the enemies, right? Any enemy that comes in to my tower range, they are going to consume the entire death wall effect. So it falls off very sharply once you move into a non-death wave farming build, and that happens when enemies get a lot higher health. So you can keep your damage low, but if you do keep your damage low, what you actually want is you still want all the enemies to be tagged with all of that good bonuses. And the best way to tag them with all of those bonuses is to have very frequent pulses of your effect waves coming out. And so that is why you need to have a high death wave count. So if you have a look at mine, I have 8 quantity plus the perk, that means I have 9. So they pulse every 4 seconds, I believe, which means that 9 times 4, that's 36 seconds. Or is it 5 seconds? I can't remember now. It's 4 or 5 seconds. Let's say 5, it's easier to count. It's 45 seconds. And then it waits for a while, and then it eventually pulses again. So the idea is that even though my death wall is not actively providing much damage to the enemies and tagging the enemies with the death wall that way, because I have a frequent uptime on my effect waves, approximately 85% of the enemies are being tagged with the death wave multipliers, which in turn is affecting my coin and cell income. So hopefully that addresses your questions and gives you a better understanding of the death wave effect. Alright, finally, this is not so much of a question but a comment from Marco, and thank you very much, Marco, for that comment. I think it really helped with my understanding of the Intro Sprint Plus interaction in the previous tournament. So the for those of you who are unsure about what this comment is about, in the previous tournament where I was playtesting the Galaxy compressor and project funding, I was fiddling around with the Multiverse Nexus calculator, and I sort of convinced myself that with a 40 seconds black hole duration, I would be able to maintain permanent uptime on my black hole, even with the battle condition that reduces your ultimate weapon durations when I was running a Galaxy compressor. However, as we saw later on in the tournament, I actually lost my black hole uptime. And basically what that means is that if you lose your black hole uptime, ranged enemies are going to shoot you, and I guess that was a primary contributor to me dying in that tournament. So Marco made a very astute observation that there is a new interaction at play when we are running intro sprint mastery, and that is that, I guess, because if we have a look at this lab over here, the recovery package lab, oops, not this one, boss, yeah, package after boss, I would still be benefiting from receiving recovery packages after the bosses, but I guess it took me a while to kill the bosses because of just an overall lack of damage later on in the run, and that was as a result of that not able to sustain me having a permanent uptime on my black hole. So the idea with intro sprint mastery is that you have to kill the boss of that particular wave. So every 10 waves, it's definitely going to spawn a boss. You have to kill that boss in order for the next round to spawn, I think. I might be wrong with this as well. It's still very new to me. But potentially because I was not killing the bosses fast enough, and therefore I was not getting enough recovery packages fast enough, that eventually caused my black hole to lose uptime. So thank you very much for that, Marco. The next thing is that you mentioned that you want me to, or you suggested that I try to make a video without intro sprint mastery. Now, this is something that I will not do, and that is because now that I have experienced luxury, it's become a necessity. And I cannot go back to the days without intro sprint mastery farming again, especially for tournaments. Suppose I wanted to go to wave 1800 in tournaments. It's going to take like 2.5 hours, and I can't bring myself to do that. But you know, if someone out there is brave enough to try that, then please let me know. Please try that and let me know, and I would gladly watch a 2.5 hour stream. But I would not want to play test that by myself. It would be a nightmare to watch. But anyway, thank you so much, Marco, for the comment.